Exercise 1, Illustrator Paths. These are simple exercises to introduce you to Bezier drawing or vector drawing methods in Adobe Illustrator using the pen tool. Download the instruction PDF and resources files. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to say save target as because I want to make sure that I can find it. So I'm going to download that to my desktop. And I'm working on a PC. If you're working on a Mac, the dialog box will look somewhat different, but you'll be able to select desktop as the destination. And I'm going to save that. And then open the folder. There it is. On a Mac, I believe the zip will automatically unpack. On a PC, I'm going to have to tell it to extract all, and that will give me another file on my desktop here, EX1 instructions resources, and you'll find a PDF that is a step-by-step instruction guide to what we'll be doing here, and also you'll see two EPS files, 01A paths and 01B shapes. You can open that either by double-clicking on that, and it will open in Illustrator, or I'm going to Command W, close that. In Illustrator, I can say under File, Open, or Command O, or Command or Control O, depending if you're on a PC or a Mac, and go to that folder on my desktop, here, Desktop, and where did it go? EX1A Instructions and Resources. Open that, and open this. Or, again, Command W, I'm going to close that. I can go to that folder and just drag 01A Paths Exercises EPS into my Illustrator application. Okay, I'm going to Command 0 to show the whole page centered in my workspace. My workspace is Essentials. That's the default workspace in Illustrator. It's not the best workspace for everything, but it has just enough tools and palettes for what we're going to do on this exercise. If you were doing one of the more complex later projects, you might want the painting workspace, which has other palettes and other tools, and has what we call the control panel up here at the top, where if I use a particular tool to draw something, I now see that this has a rectangle control panel. If I'm working in type, I get a typographic or a characters control panel. But for this exercise, Essentials is all we need. First, I want you to go to the layer palette and note that this is on a layer called Template. There are the different objects that are on this layer. And I'd like you to click right between the red bar and the eye, and you'll get a little lock symbol, which means that this template is locked. And you can see that my little pencil here has a no sign on it, circled with a diagonal line, meaning no, you can't draw on this, it's a locked layer. We're not going to draw on the template layer because you could really confuse yourself or mess up the template, or it makes it really hard for me to grade this when you're done. And the goal is to make grading easy for me, because then I can give you a better grade. If I have trouble grading it, I may not be generous. So I want you to click down at the bottom here, a little plus sign. It says Create New Layer. There's my new layer. And you'll notice it made another layer that is indicated by a red bar. What the red bar means is that when you draw an object on this layer, it's going to have a red path indicator and red anchor points. And if I, guidelines are always, if I have a guideline highlighted, it's going to show as a red guideline. So in order, again, to facilitate grading, I like this layer to have a different color to it. So double click on layer 2 and change that color from light red, preferably to something like blue, so there's a good contrast between the new layer and the template layer. And you'll see when I do that, this is now indicated by a blue square. If I put a guideline in here, when the guideline is selected, it's also that shade of blue. Okay, I'll delete that. And I delete usually with the delete key. You can go into the edit pull down and find delete or clear or things like that, but you have a keyboard. If you got two hands, you should make use of them and just hit the delete key. If you don't have two hands, well, the system is set up so that you don't actually need two hands. You can do it other ways using your mouse, but I like to use everything at my disposal, and I usually find things on the keyboard are faster than using the mouse. Even with one hand, you could use the mouse to position to draw something, and then use that same hand to hit the delete key. Okay, so once this is locked, we don't need the layer palette for anything anymore. Make sure that's locked and make sure we're drawing on layer 2. So layer 1 selected, I can't draw. Layer 2 selected, I can draw. And then I can click on those arrows to close that palette. You can actually minimize this by just squeezing on the side of that, because we really don't need to do anything with that anymore. We will need the tool panel, although we only need one tool. And your tool panel is generally locked to the side when you open the software. I'm going to tear that off of that side, and I'm going to click on this arrow here because that makes it 2 columns. And I find it easier to find things in the tool panel if I'm working in 2 columns, so my eye doesn't have to go up and down the whole length of the workspace to find the tool I'm looking for. They're in 2 neat little columns. The tool I want is the pen tool, and you can see right now the pen tool is actually on the anchor point tool. If I pull this out, I can change this to pen tool. And if you click on, oh, you know what? Wow. I just noticed something. If I'm in Essentials, it doesn't give me all of those tools. So I'm going to go to Essentials Classic for a minute here, tear that off. And you'll notice that now I have 4 pen tools, which is great for my demos, because I can say, you would do this, and you say, oh gosh, that's a black fill. I'm going to flip this by clicking on that arrow so I have a black line with no fill. And having no fill will be important when I'm trying to trace the paths on the template, because if I have a fill, I'll do this right here with this black fill that was there when I opened it, and I click on this and drag and click over here and drag, and I'm going to drag up to about here, and you can see that if I miss my template by a lot, let me just make this just a little bit worse. I'm going to grab the center of the path here and pull this over. I could say, yeah, I did pretty good because I can't see the original line. Well, no, you can't see the original line. If I change this to white and black, it looks like I've just got a black line there, but I've got a fill. And in Illustrator, you can have an open path fill, so it fills across from one anchor point to another. And there's no red showing, which could be an A on the project if no red is showing. But no red is showing because there's a fill. If you take the fill away, you can see that I've missed the original path by a mile. So you want to draw with no fill, and you can use a black stroke for this. I would not use a red stroke because then I can't tell when the new stroke from the template. Black would be just fine. I'm going to snap, well actually I'm going to go back to the Essentials palette, because as I think about it, the pen tool, normally you would have all these tools with the pen tool, and if I click on this bar out here, that gives me a floating palette, and I can say I'm going to use the pen tool, And I'm going to use the anchor point tool. I'm going to use the add a point tool or the subtract a point tool. But we're actually not going to use those other than just the pen tool and the anchor point tool. So you could just leave it as essentials, have only the layer palette, and it doesn't matter that we've only got two tools here because we're only going to use the pen tool. We'll be using the anchor point tool, but I'll show you a different way to access that when we get to it. So the first step is, actually, let me show you the whole thing. We have 4 parts to this. The 4 parts are part A, which is a single path with 2 anchor points and 1 segment. Paths B, C, and D each are single paths with 6 anchor points and 5 segments. These should be drawn as one continuous path, and we're going to discuss how you do that, and doing these exercises will improve your skills at drawing vectors in Illustrator. I think we'll take a little break, and then I'll start the demo in the next video.